How do you feel when you come across something truly beautiful? When you're among your tribe of thousands of football fans supporting your team? Do you remember what it was like to meet someone truly remarkable? From the roar of the crowd to the goosebumps when encountering the magnificent, all these experiences can be connected to one word: awe.
That sympathy and compassion.
American psychologist Dacher Keltner believes having more of it in your life will make you a happier person, and maybe even reduce that gnawing feeling in our modern society that we're rudderless, purposeless. His book, Awe, reveals how this elusive emotion can transform our brains and bodies for the better. Keltner tells me all about his research and how we can all harness the power of awe. This is the InnerView. Professor Dacher Keltner joins us now on the InnerView from Berkeley, California. Good to have you on the program. Awe is
It's good to be with you.
Thank you. Awe is a big word. Maybe it's not fully understood, and maybe it means different things to different people. So what does it mean to you, the man who wrote the book called Awe?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Imran. It's a complicated word. The word awe in English and then the versions in different languages refers to experiences that are often hard to describe with language. They're mysterious, they're ineffable. But how I define awe in the book is that it is an emotion that we humans feel, maybe even other primates feel, when we encounter things that are vast, like a giant tree, a huge storm, and that are mysterious, that we don't understand immediately with our current knowledge. So awe is an emotion we feel when we encounter vast mysteries.
Why do we need it now more than ever?
You know, Imran, thank you for asking that question. I've been teaching happiness and health around the world for 25 years, and we are, the data show in what we call a mental health crisis. There are high levels of anxiety and depression worldwide for obvious reasons. And in the scientific study of awe, what we've learned is that awe helps us feel stronger. It helps our immune system. It's good for our heart. It actually gives us a sense of more time and wisdom and perspective. And so what I make the case for in the book is that 5 to 10 minutes of awe is about as good for your mind and your body as anything that you can do. And that's why we need it more now than ever, is it's a real mental health crisis in many parts of the world.
Do we have to separate out good and bad awe? We can get a
Yeah.
bunch of people together, well, hundreds of thousands of people together in a rally and get them to chant genocidal slogans and feel
Right.
fantastic about it, right? So that's, I guess, some form of awe. How do we separate out between the two?
Yeah, what a terrific question, right? There are historical examples of how awe, as in mob behavior or fascist rallies, or even when you read accounts of the genocide in Rwanda, there was a lot of awe that fueled that violent behavior. And I think that that's one of the deep questions that we always have to entertain, is that what I believe is that humans have evolved with our particular capacities and strengths, like awe, which helps us in many ways. But it, like every human tendency, can be put to malevolent uses, dangerous uses. And one of the ways that we separate good awe from bad awe is the bad awe tends to involve threat to other people, destruction, right? Violence, exclusion from a sense of community. And once you see those qualities emerge in a social experience of awe, a religious translation of awe, then we should be worried, right? We should be engaging in rational conversations to think about how to curb that dangerous form of awe.
There's a sci-fi novelist, Donald Kingsbury. I came across a really beautiful quote of his from one of his novels where he said tradition is a set of solutions for which we have forgotten the problem, and if you take away the solution, invariably the problem reappears. And is it a general problem in our modern culture, if we say this modern cosmopolitan globalized culture, if you like, that we seem to have cut ourselves off from certain traditions which might have had a lot of bad stuff attached to it, but maybe we didn't truly understand the proper wisdom of them until we lost them, and now we're left a little lost. And that's why some people like yourself come in and say, hey, we need to reconnect with community, with awe, with the transcendent, with something bigger than ourselves.
What a spectacular question. It's no doubt we live in one of the most globalized, individualistic moments in human history, right? It has spread through many different cultures. And what we've lost, and people are really worried about this, is a sense of community, a sense of purpose, a sense of deep meaning and story. And I would even say the sacred, right? Which is a hard word for scientists to use. To give you examples, in the United States, people don't gather for picnics like we used to. We don't eat together like we used to. We don't. There's a massive movement away from church, which has upsides and also downsides. I just got word from a sociologist in Sweden. They are moving away from funerals for people who have died or who are deceased, ways of consecrating the lives of people who have passed. I think these are all problematic and costing us in terms of the health of our societies. And what's amazing about focusing on the experience of awe is it brings us back to community. We listen to music together. We engage in a spiritual practice together. We get out in nature together. We go to a museum together. We study sacred texts together, all to find awe. And those are ways of recreating what we've lost, like you say, Imran, in this globalized, overworked, overscheduled world.
Last summer, we were in Berkeley. We were interviewing one of your colleagues, Barry Schwartz. We were talking about consumerism mainly, and fascinating stuff with him. And when we were done, when we finished the shoot, my colleague Basil and I we drove up to Muir Woods, and that was the best part of our entire trip. We spent a few hours in the woods. And so afterwards, we couldn't quite define what was special about it, but it just was special. Yeah. We can work on a definition or describing it. But what does the data say? What does the science say is happening to us as human beings after that experience in the woods?
I think what a wonderful example, and it points to fundamental new insights about how we can heal ourselves and find strength and purpose as humans during this complicated 21st century. There is a rich literature on the power of nature to bring us awe, right? To look at those 300-foot tall redwood trees that you saw, Imran, and feel wonder and reverence and a sense of being embraced by the forest, the redwood forest. And what the science shows, I'll focus on the neurophysiology. It's really remarkable. Even though awe is a mysterious state, hard to define, hard to put words to it, we are learning a lot about its physiology. When you feel, when you experience nature, when you listen to transcendent music, when you're with people at a soccer match, right, or a football match, all producing awe, it deactivates the self-focused regions of the brain called the default mode network. It activates the vagus nerve, which is this big bundle of nerves in your chest, which calms your body down, helps you connect to other people. It releases oxytocin, a little neuropeptide in your brain and your body, which helps you cooperate and be an upstanding member of a community. It is good for your immune system. Our research finds awe cools down the inflammation response, which is part of your immune system, which right now around the world is a pathway to disease. So awe has all these incredible effects upon your body. And I've already charted what the science says about what it does for the mind. And so it's one of the reasons why, for example, in healthcare right now, people are wondering, doctors and nurses, how do we bring more awe into our practice of healthcare?
Mm,
How do patients facing disease access more awe in ways you've hinted at?
mm. There are some people who have added these lists and these modes of behavior to like a schedule or like the grind, right? So you wake up and you do your meditation and then you do this and you go for your hike and you do, and there's something a little off about it because
Yeah.
it's usually involved in like following an influencer and maybe buying a product or something like that.
Ah,
So, I mean, I get that we need more of this. We need more community. We need more awe. We need to, slow down and focus on the details. But is it really that easy to sort of have this on demand?
yeah.
Have awe
Yeah.
on tap. How do
Yeah.
we get this still organically while we still leave some space open for the improvisation of life?
Yeah. What a spectacular question. And it was this mystery that we confronted as we undertook this science of awe in the past 15 years. Like, if it is this transcendent state that overwhelms us, right? We have a deep epiphany, a spiritual epiphany, or a scientific epiphany, like Charles Darwin did. How
Mm,
can we bring it into our regular life? And we learned a couple of things, Imran. The first is that, and we studied awe in 26, 30 different cultures, including Turkey, and we found that people feel awe a few times a week. They have reliable ways in which they find it, much as they might find stress reduction or moments of love with a partner, they can find awe. So that I call that everyday awe. It's accessible. And what we've done based on that finding is exactly what you're asking, which is how can I access this in my busy day, right? One of the studies we did, we had elderly people just add a little bit of awe to their weekly walk, right? They go find some mystery that makes them feel curious. And it led to less physical pain over 8 weeks. In a second study, we just published this, during COVID, we had medical doctors, patients, nurses during COVID, which was really hard in the United States and hospitals, right? Lots of stress, lots of depression, 30% understaffed. We just said 1 minute a day, take a moment to calm down, pause, put away your
mm,
devices, and think about something that really is mysterious and vast that you're part of. So right now, Imran, I'm thinking, wow, I'm having this incredible conversation with Imran, right, who's in Istanbul, and we're talking about the science of awe. That is amazing to me. We
mm.
asked our healthcare providers to do that for 1 minute a day. And over 8 weeks, they felt less depression, less anxiety, and they felt like they were part of a stronger community, right? Awe, Albert Einstein said, this is the fundamental human emotion. It's just fundamental to who we are, basic state of consciousness. And we can access it through listening to music, going for a walk in nature, thinking about moral beauty, who inspires you in terms of a sense of purpose. Lots of ways to get this wonderful
Mm.
emotion. And I think that's one of the tasks of today.
You said put away your devices. On
Yeah.
my way to work this morning, I was listening to an interview with you on a podcast, all right? So, I mean, it led me to this, right? However, I guess quantify just how big the problem is when it comes to the devices,
Oh my
social
God.
media, all the platforms, the TikToks and the Instagrams and stuff, and how they prevent us from accessing this sense of awe and becoming better people.
Yeah. So let's start with the first proposition, which is, uh, do we feel awe with devices? Sure. Devices can get us to concerts and to, Google Maps gets you to the Muir Woods and you see the redwoods. But on balance, they are antithetical or the opposite of awe. We gathered awe stories from 2,600 people around the world from every imaginable culture. In not a single story did people mention a technological device as a source of awe for them, their
Mm,
smartphone, a Google search. And you just think about the very design of a smartphone is small, it's fast, it fragments your attention. So it works against awe, right? Our Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, who I deeply admire and very big proponent of awe, has recently said we need a warning to the American public about how these devices work against our sense of purpose, meaning, awe, joy, happiness, connection. And he's right. The empirical data suggests, on balance, that the 6 to 8 hours a child is immersed in the digital world on a device it's stressful, it's envy inducing, it's hard on awe. And so I think we really need to, much to be dramatic, much as we moved away from cigarettes in the United States after the health warnings in 1964, we need our young people to start thinking about reorienting to direct experience, direct social interactions, direct engagements with nature, et cetera, given those data. And awe is a pathway, right? It is an easy thing for kids to access, and we need more of it for our younger generation.
And as they're following each other and viewing each other's posts on these platforms, they're comparing themselves to each other, and there is an element of competition, envy, maybe fear.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we put them together and get them to play sports together. Okay, maybe there's a negative side because they consider like the opposition the enemy, maybe. But on a team, they're interacting with each other. It's synergistic. There's a physical interaction with each other, and they have a common purpose. They're unified, right? So it's the complete opposite.
It is. I mean, a lot of our best moments in social life, working in a strong organization, having a wonderful conversation at dinner time, kids playing on a sports team, are moments of, and it's actually a form of awe, which is collective coordinated behavior or movement, which we call collective effervescence. And kids find a lot of awe in sports and in musical and dancing together. And for kids who are religious, spiritual practice brings them a sense of awe. Collective art, collective social protests, politics are ways in which everybody finds meaning and purpose and a sense of identity through awe. These are people have been writing about this for a long time. We study it in the lab. And so that, back to technology, one of the challenges is for technology to use its incredible intelligence to get us to these very healthy, accessible forms of awe, like music, like sort of political discourse, like sharing in an artistic experience or a sports experience. And that will be a design challenge, I think, for the next wave of technologies.
We had Professor John Vervaeke on the program not too long ago, and he talks about the crisis of meaning that we have globally, and I think we all accept that there is a crisis of meaning. And he says that you have to find your own ecology of practices. So that's in terms of what you do individually, personally, when no one's looking, what you're doing publicly, how you're interacting with other people. And that could involve an element of cherry picking from different cultures, different traditions. I'm going to ask you something similar to what I asked him. It becomes a bit bewildering for people because there's just so much out there. People have good intentions. They want to be better. They want to slow down. They want to unplug, but they've got to exist in this world. They want to change the world. They want to change themselves. And there are a lot of options out there, a lot of gurus, a lot of charlatans. They get quite bewildered and lost amid the deluge of options. So what do we do when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are decrying or observing this is a period of a crisis of meaning, right? Young people don't have a sense of purpose like we did 20, 30 years ago. We've lost community. A lot of the sources of narratives in our lives have been changed, right? We don't live in the same communities over time, the sense of place. And, in studying awe for 15 years, I believe that a cultivation of awe, which, by the way, is at the heart of religion and spiritual groups and communities of different kinds. They are containers, if you will, of awe. We can take a personalized approach to the cultivation of awe. Awe comes from what I call 8 wonders: moral beauty of other people, nature, spirituality, music, visual art, big ideas about life and death, right? sharing collective activity with other people, sporting events or political conversations. So take those 8 wonders and create your own menu or profile that you can find awe in. Listen to music with intention, right? What kinds of music make you tear up and think like, I really care about this? Another final example, who's a person of moral beauty to you? You know, every day I take just a minute or two and think about, what is it about Gandhi that just inspires me and gives me goosebumps thinking about Gandhi or whomever it may be? You can form, almost like we form diets and we have exercise regimes, we need awe regimes to return us to this sense of deeper meaning.
We need all regimes, but not awful regimes, I gather. You mentioned, yeah, I mean, you mentioned life and death, right? And for me, the most powerful moments, days in my life involved the birth of my children. And it's difficult to explain to my friends who don't have children, but I've said this before, simultaneously you're high and low. You're so proud, you want to shout it from the rooftops, but you're so humbled and grounded that you're just fascinated by the mystery of it all, and you feel so small in the vastness of the cosmos. And the two emotions are happening concurrently. You're so proud and you're so humbled at exactly the same time. And amazingly, when my second daughter was born, it happened at exactly the same sort of intensity. And when our third daughter was born, at exactly the same intensity. It's not as if it had diminished each time, right? Which was incredible. And you say, so for me, that clearly meets the definition of awe. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it, reliving it again. Like
so
I'm overwhelmed by love. And in doing my research, I know that a big part of the inspiration for this book was the death of your brother. Tell us a little bit about that and how these two things, the two ends of the rope of human existence, birth and death, both bring about the sense of awe that we have.
Yeah, you know, thank you for asking that, Imran. In the United States, we don't have rich traditions to get us to think about the end of life and to consecrate it. We're losing funerals and days of celebration and philosophies of the end of life, right? We really have lost them. And I am a product of that. And very tragically, my younger brother, who I was deeply close to, Rolf, he was 1 year younger than me. We did everything together, from playing sports to, you know, wild adventures as young guys to being best men in each other's weddings. Got colon cancer. After 2 years of brutal combat, succumbed, and he passed away. And I was there at his passing, as was my whole family, and I was touching his shoulder and thinking about his life, and I watched him go. And I felt a moment of awe, which caught me really off guard as a scientist who studies biology, right, and physiology in the mind. I felt like he seemed peaceful. He was moving into a different space of meaning that I didn't understand. I could almost sense space vibrating in different dimensions, and I was awestruck at the enormity, not only of childbirth, but of the end of life. And that propelled me to write this book, right? And his loss and the idea of the life cycles throughout the book. And what happened to me is really true of the mental health crisis of a lot of people around the world right now after the pandemic. Is I felt anxious, I felt lonely, I felt like I couldn't have a sense of meaning because my brother was gone. I talked to him all the time, and I went in search of awe, you know, and I went to music I didn't understand. I immersed myself in nature. I went to retreats in India, and I found a sense of understanding about his life, and what we know. And it was so interesting, Imran. This was the last wonder of life that we discovered in our research in 30 different cultures, which is the life cycle. Like you, a lot of people around the world are awestruck at the birth of a child, and it is awesome. And thank you, all the women who have give birth. And we were also awestruck. I was relieved to discover when we watch people we care about die. You know, it is the big mystery of life, why it ends. And it produces a lot of growth and search for meaning, which it did for me. And I hope, and it's been gratifying in releasing this book, that a lot of people read it to really seek meaning through awe when people they care about pass away, right? It's a human universal. 60 to 70% of us will have that experience of watching someone we deeply care about pass away. And awe is a pathway to growth and meaning, as I discovered in writing the book.
And that's very powerful. And I'm grateful that you shared that with us. I'm grateful that we've had this conversation. Professor Dacher Keltner, thanks so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did as well.
I did too, Imran. And I'd love to meet your 3 daughters.
That'll be wonderful.
Their stories of love
Yeah.
got me goosebumps
Oh,
too.
thank you. Take care of yourself. I hope to speak to you again sometime soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Imran. It's been a wonderful conversation.